Hey guys. So welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shelby Matthews, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 10 things that I have learned from skateboarding around a big campus. I'm aware that this is a very specific and seemingly random video for me to make. It probably doesn't apply to a lot of my subscribers, but if you are someone who is learning how to skateboard, or maybe like learning to get better at it, or maybe you kind of know how to skateboard but you're about to start going out in public and doing it where there are higher stakes, then in this video I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks that I have learned, or just some practical things that I think about while I'm skateboarding, things that help me to survive. And I really do mean that in a very literal way. I guess just a little bit of background information before I get into this. I learned how to skateboard maybe like 4 years ago or something. I actually don't know if that's accurate, but something like that. And I got a penny board a little bit after that.
It's me, puppy. Holy cow.
Sorry, my mom just got here. What was I saying?
Receipt to take that back.
Oh, I think I was just gonna say that I pretty much only ever rode my penny board like up and down the street, or like never like in a public place like a college campus where there are a lot of people around, or where there's a lot of different changes in terrain. I really had to learn how to adjust. So here I am a year and a half later with 10 things that helped me adjust, 10 things that I've learned from pennyboarding on campus. Number one, a lot of people tell me that they don't think they have the balance to skateboard, and I am here to tell you that you pick up balancing pretty quickly. Like, you pick up, you know, standing on the skateboard and pushing pretty quickly. Skateboarding isn't so much about balancing as it is reacting. If you were on a completely flat surface that went on forever, then all you would really have to do is just stand there and like push. What makes it difficult is that you're not on a completely flat surface, so you kind of have to constantly be bracing yourself for what's in front of you. So it's really more about reacting than it is balancing. A second thing I learned. So once I got to college, I had a few instances where I sort of fell because I hit a really big crack in the road or in the sidewalk that I thought I could go over, and then I could not. And after a couple times of nearly falling in front of people, you get to become really careful. I kind of just accepted that my penny board is so small that I probably just can't go over bigger cracks and bumps and things like that, which is definitely true to some extent. I definitely can't go over all the things that someone on like a longboard could go over. But after like a year of carefully avoiding all the giant cracks in the road so that I don't like fall again, I realized my penny board can actually go over more than I thought. The reason I fell wasn't because my penny board couldn't go over the cracks, it was because I was not bracing myself enough to go over those big cracks. It wasn't so much the board as it was myself. Along with not overestimating how big a bump or crack in the road is, I also learned, number 3, not to underestimate how steep some hills are. I definitely learned this the hard way after a mildly traumatizing experience that I think I've actually talked about on my channel before, where I basically saw a hill and was like, hey, I can go down this hill, and then learned very quickly that I in fact could not go down that hill. I really looked at this hill and thought to myself, I could go down that. I'm not gonna be going too fast.
I have never gone so fast in my life.
I'll be able to slow down.
Slowing myself down, that wasn't going to be a possibility.
I really just couldn't have been more wrong.
So it definitely taught me a lesson. I mean, I'm never doing that again. Ever, for one.
That was honestly such a lesson. Like, I really think I almost died going down that hill that one day that I thought I could go down just fine. You know, especially on such a small board, it's just really dangerous to get going that fast down such a steep hill. So now I'm really careful. That brings me to my 4th point, which is that in crowded areas especially, it is really important subconsciously in the back of your mind to always have a plan looking ahead for how you're going to slow yourself down if somebody walks in front of you or whatever it may be. So I've actually learned a few things to look for to help me slow down. So the first thing is texture in the ground. I'll use like the cracks in the sidewalk to slow me down, as long as they're not like ridiculously deep or anything. They kind of serve as speed bumps. And then a second thing that I look for is the slope of the ground. So for example, there's a parking lot that I go across to get to my apartment, and the whole thing is sloped like this, and I'm going like this. So what I've learned is that I don't want to start up here the whole time and then at the very end of the parking lot start going downhill, because I'm gonna get going really fast right as I go into the street. And that's not a smart idea. So instead I want to start low, and then once I get to the street I want to go up higher, and then I slow down. So yeah, you always want to kind of have a plan for how you're gonna slow yourself down so that you don't end up in some situations that I've ended up in, where I get going down a hill or I get going really fast, and then all of a sudden the hill just ends and it's like construction and then like a crowded street. So now I try to plan ahead more. Number 5, I have learned which ground textures my penny board cannot handle. There's pretty much only 2. One of them is the pebbly ground, and technically I can go over that, but the campus is so old that the ground is really uneven in random spots. There will be like holes in the ground, like you just never know. It's just not worth almost falling the entire time you are pennyboarding over that ground. And then the second ground that I can't really go over is brick under certain conditions. So if the brick is just flat and I'm going in the direction that it's pointed, it's fine. But if I'm going like perpendicular to the direction it's pointed, so that there's like a crack every like 3 inches, it's just so much effort to like keep up the speed. It's not even worth it. It's so bumpy. And then number 6, I've learned that there are 2 things that are my worst nightmare. Number 1 is sand, and number 2 is acorns. I don't know if I've told this story on my channel before, but there was one time where I was pennyboarding on campus on some concrete, and I hit the smallest patch of sand I've ever seen. It was so small and it looked so flat, and it looked like so little sand that I thought to myself, I can go over the sand. I almost didn't think anything at all. But then the narrator said she could in fact not go over the sand, and I could not go over the sand. I immediately came to a stop. Like the second my wheels hit that small patch of sand, I stopped, I jumped off, and my penny board kicked like 20 feet behind me, and some dude asked me if I was okay, and someone got my board for me, and it was really nice. But less than 60 seconds later, I watched another dude on a skateboard get stopped by the same patch of sand. I wish I could have warned him, but it was too late. So, sand. That's a no for me. And then acorns, I don't know why I keep thinking that I can go over like little patches of acorns under trees. And every time it's like I could have easily just gone around the patch of acorns, but every time I go over the acorns and then am startled when I keep hitting acorns. And then a close third for me would be water. I mean, obviously I can't really go over water puddles, but even if the ground is just like a little bit wet, what happens when water mixes with dirt on the ground? You get mud. And what happens when you go to pick up your board and you don't realize there's mud on it? You get mud all over your hand and all over the side of your shirt and your sleeve. So I learned that the hard way as well. Number 7, I have learned that you absolutely can test the limits of your board. I could go over the pebbly ground. I could go downhill and go really fast, even though I know that that's probably not something I should be doing on a penny board. I could do all of these things, but at some point, you just have to ask yourself, would it be easier just to walk? And if the answer is yes, then pick up your board and walk, for goodness sake. I don't even like actually pennyboard across the majority of campus because it's just too crowded. There's just too many people to do so comfortably and safely, and that's okay. Like, it helps me get from my apartment to campus, and that's kind of what I need it most for. I see people on skateboards all the time going like 2 miles per hour on their skateboard. They are like going at a snail's speed over the pebbly ground or in a crowd of people, and like at that point, the slower you go, the harder it is to balance. I'm like, wouldn't it be easier just to walk? I know it might look lame to carry your board, but wouldn't it just be easier? It takes so much more energy to try to balance when you're going that slow, or when you're like trying to go uphill, for instance. A lot of times if I'm going uphill, I'll just give up and walk because it takes more energy to like push yourself uphill than it does just to walk. You just have to admit it to yourself. Okay, number 8, I have learned that if you're holding things, which I do a lot while I'm pennyboarding, I might hold my Yeti, or I'm pretty much always holding my like wristlet. If you are holding anything, it helps to hold it in the center of your body so that it doesn't throw off your balance. Number 9, this is also just a simple little thing I'm throwing in there. It is harder to feel your board when you're wearing shoes with really thick soles. I do it a lot anyways, but it's harder to feel the board. So that's another small thing. And then the 10th and final thing that I have learned. Skateboarding is kind of like driving, and that the more experience you get, the more situations you know how to handle. But while you are gaining that experience, you probably will fall 1 or 2 times. I'm happy to say that I'm at a point where I don't really fall anymore. I kind of just like jump off my board and my board might say bye. But regardless, whenever I do have an incident where I have to step off my board very suddenly and kind of just let my board go where it wants, people are pretty nice about it. It's really not the end of the world. No one's ever laughed at me or anything like that. If anything, people have picked up my board for me. People have asked me if I'm okay. I've seen other people fall on their skateboards too, and I'm just like, another part of skateboarding, like what are you gonna do? I saw one girl fall on her penny board and I helped her up and I was like, look, it happens to the best of us. But people are surprisingly supportive of you and your abilities even when you do fall. So there's nothing really to be embarrassed about. That's the 10th and final thing that I've learned. I still have a lot to learn. I think I could really use some more tips for slowing down or for stopping myself, because I know like on a skateboard, you know, when you want to stop, you can kind of just like kick your board up and things like that, but I don't think you can do that on a penny board, and that's what I carry around campus with me. I hope that if you're learning how to skateboard or pennyboard or longboard or whatever, that maybe you learned something from this video. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I should have a lot of new content coming out over the next month or so because I got nothing better to do. I'm on winter break. If you liked this video or found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And I guess I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye! Is that good?